Well, good morning. I'm making my sanding block, and I've got the two parts done, the two parts of wood, and now I'm ready to install this, which is the bolt and the washer, the wing nut that holds it all together. So I need to flip my plans over and check out the section where it talks about doing the drilling. And it says the first thing I should do is mark the diagonals and drill a 1/8 inch guide hole. So over in the drill press, you can see I've got my diagonals marked. I've got my center location right there, and my 1/8 inch bit is installed in the drill press. So I'm ready to drill. I'll show you how to change the bit later, but the first thing we should do is make sure this is centered where I want to drill. You can move the vise around a little bit. All right, so I need to make sure that it's lined up. And then I'm going to take the wrench, a 9/16 wrench, right there, 9/16, and I'm going to tighten the bolts on the side of the vise. There's one on each side here. And I also need to make sure that the table won't swing, and that's this clamp back here. Okay, so let me set the camera down. You can watch me line this up. I'll put that right on the center, and I'll tighten my bolts on the wrench. Double check that. Oh, it's off a little bit. That's where I want it. Right where I want to drill. Okay? So now I'm simply going to pull the drill press on and drill my hole all the way through both parts. I'll wait till that bit comes to a stop. And let's see if I drilled all the way through here. Put those shims back in and drill a little bit more. Alright, so here's my sanding block, and I drilled that hole all the way through now. That's my 1/8 inch hole, both parts. So everything lines up off of that hole. Now the plans say to switch the bit to 1.25 inches for the washer. I'm going to put just the top part in there, and I need to drill a 1/2 inch deep. Okay, so let's change the bit here. First thing we're going to do is grab the chuck key out of the top and give that a turn right in the hole. Lefty loosen, and that'll loosen it. And I'll switch that to the 1.25 inch drill bit. Well, that's not going to fit in yet. I better lower this drill press down. Okay, so how do I do that? Well, that's back here. First thing I need to do is loosen the clamp. That's loose. Now I can come over here and turn the crank.
I like turtles.
You can see the whole table slowly going down. All right. If I need to raise the table, I can reverse that process. There we go. Now we've got room to get that bit in there. 1.25 inches. Tighten it with your chuck key. righty-tighty this time. And I'll store that up at the top. I'm going to line up my vise with that tip of the bit and my 1/8 inch guide hole that I drilled. I don't have the bottom piece below this. I don't need it right now. And I don't have to worry about lining up with the space in the middle since I'm not drilling all the way through. I just need to line up with that 1/8 inch guide hole. Don't forget to lock the clamp on the back. The whole table will swing. All right, now how do we set the 1/2 inch deep? I suppose you could just guess, but that's hard to do with these big Forstner bits. I'm going to do that up here. You can see when I pull this all the way down, the bit's on top of my sanding block, and I look up here, I see that I'm quite a few, about 1 inch above the depth stop and the top. And that is this measurement in here. Okay, so in 1/16, I want to go 8/16 deep. So count 8 lines and bring that top nut down. That's going to be right there. So I'll lower that down. I'll double check. 1, 2, 3. There we go. You can bring the top nut down to lock it. If you're only doing 1 hole, I don't worry about that. But if you're doing a few, okay, so now I've got 1/2 inch or 8/16. And as I drill, this top nut will sit right on the top of that black block. Let's drill our hole, 1/2 inch deep. You can see when I'm done, the depth stop is sitting right on the top of the black block. So I know that hole is a 1/2 inch deep. All right, now the plans say that I need to take out my 1.25 bit and increase that size, or decrease that size rather, to a 5/16. And that'll enlarge the 1/8 inch guide hole big enough for the bolt. So here I have a 5/16 bit. I'll chuck that into my drill press. And it looks like I'm going to have to raise the table a bit. Tighten that in, righty-tighty with the chuck key. I like to do a couple of the holes at least. There's 3 because there's 3 jaws that grab that bit. I will loosen my clamp, raise my table. And I can bring it almost all the way up to my work here. Get that table centered, and then don't forget to tighten that clamp on the back column there. All right, here we go, 5/16. Okay, finishing up step 2 here. The plans say that I need a 3/8 hole, or excuse me, a 3/4 inch hole, 3/8 deep. But I'm going to use a bolt that looks like that, which is a little bit different than what the plans used. And I measured this and I did a test hole. I'm going to change that to a 5/8 drill bit, and I'm going to go 1/4 deep because I actually want that square for the carriage bolt to lock in to my sanding block. So back over here to the drill press, I've got the bottom half of my sanding block. It goes like that. That's the top. That's the bottom. So I'm going to flip it over. I'm drilling on the bottom. And I want to do this off the 1/8 inch guide hole because once I enlarge that, then the tip of my drill bit, see it's got that little tiny tip to guide off the 1/8 inch hole. Once I make that a 1/4 inch, this will want to wander a little bit and it's not going to follow that. So let's switch our bits to a 5/8. We've done this a few times now. We'll take out that 5/16. We'll install a 5/8. We'll tighten it up with our chuck key. A couple of the holes. Store that away. And now I can see that I'm nowhere close because I switched from the top to the bottom part. So let's move this around a little bit. I'm going to have to loosen that clamp and raise the table. I'm also going to have to loosen the bolts on my vise and move that around because it's not centered. So let's line it up here. That looks good. I'll hold that down with the bit as I tighten my bolts. And I also want to tighten my clamp back here. Last time I almost forgot to do that. Make sure everything's secure before you turn on the machine. Always. Double check it. Take any loose items off your drill press. We don't want those to fall on the floor or get sucked into the bit. All right. So now I need to go 1/4 deep, and we know how to set the depth over here. This has got to come quite a bit down. I'll just spin this a while. And a 1/4 inch would be, remember this is in 16ths, so that's 4/16. Four-sixteenths right there. I'm only drilling one hole, so I don't really need to bring the top nut down. You certainly can if you're working in a group and you're going to do a few of them. Bring that top nut down. That bottom one will stay put. Here we go. Everything's secure. I've got my depth set. There's my 1/4. Now, the last hole I have to drill is a 1/4 inch hole. So without moving anything, it should all be centered on the drill press. I should be able to slide this 5/16 bit out, install my 1/4 drill bit. Oop, if I didn't raise it up, there we go. Now I'm going to go all the way through, so make sure you're centered in the vise. We don't want to put more holes in the vise. That'll dull our wood drill bits really fast. I can raise my depth stop up so that's out of the way because I want to go all the way through to enlarge that hole. I should still be centered. Look at that, I'm not. Oh, it's because I didn't put the bit in right. Look at that. Don't do that. See, it's offset. Since it's locked in, I'll turn it on real quick. That's not going to drill a very good hole. I better double check my drill bit. I don't have it in the middle of the jaws is what happened there. It happens when you're trying to do it quickly. All right, let's try that. That looks quite a bit better. And what do you know? I'm centered. Okay, is everything still tight here? My clamp is, my vise is. Here we go. Let's drill our hole all the way through. All right, let me put this together and I'll show you the final product. All right, so here's my sanding block. You can see I put it together, did my assembly. Everything fits good. I've got the bolt set in the bottom. You want to make sure that the bolt, the camera will get it there. Make sure that the bolt, you can check it with a square or an edge of a ruler. Make sure it's not going to stick up past the wood. So that's coming all together. And the only thing I want to do is wrap some sandpaper around it, and I'm all set. All my holes worked out well.